This is chapters 21 through 25 of Lock the Doors. 21. I don't know how Mom met Martin. All I know is we moved in with him in a heartbeat, and it was millions more before we left. He seemed nice. Any warning signs were hidden by his newness. Mom was happy, so I was happy too, and even when she wasn't, she disguised it so well that I was allowed to be a kid for a tiny, blissful bit longer. I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house over the next few years. They were always excited to see me, but after a while, their faces showed something else too. Worry. When I went home, there would often be broken things. Door panels, windows, anything made of glass. Mom moved into my room, and we would lie awake on Saturday mornings, not daring to make a sound until we heard the front door slam and the car pull away. The weekends were our refuge. We didn't enjoy them, but we felt less afraid. The worst thing was the fear that lingered in the corners, creeping forward as the hours ticked away. On Saturdays, Martin went clay pigeon shooting, sometimes, the best times. He didn't come back until we were asleep. On Sundays, we didn't know where he went, but we didn't care. All that mattered was his absence. Mom did her best to fill those days with good memories, but it's hard to enjoy something when you know it's just a brief escape from a nightmare. I remember sitting in the bath while Mom rinsed my hair. I remember Martin bursting in and yelling at me to get out. I remember standing in the hallway dripping wet and freezing while the sound of his heavy, never-ending piss filled my ears. He forced Mom to stay in the bathroom so he could tell her how pathetic I was. When he was done, he walked past in silence while she wrapped me in a towel. "I'm sorry," she whispered over and over again. Every time he did it, she apologized. Eventually I stopped sobbing, but I could never stop the shivers. When I realized he did it on purpose, I stopped wanting baths. I would fight with Mom until she gave in and let me wash in the sink with a flannel. That's what I remember about Martin. All the times I stood outside the bathroom naked and freezing and alone. That and the gun. 22. The only time Mom fought back, I thought she was going to die. I don't remember why they were arguing. There probably wasn't a reason. It was just what happened. But this time, Mom spoke up or hit back, and Martin went to the safe where he kept his rifle for clay pigeon shooting. I heard the click as he loaded it and watched as he held the barrel to Mom's head. He didn't shout. He didn't smile. He just stood there, pointing a gun at my mother. I was 7. Thinking back now, it feels like a story I've made up or a dream that has fractured in the light, leaving only flickers of the facts. He didn't pull the trigger. That would have been too easy. Martin's game was emotional torture, and he was good at it. But that weekend, as Mom and I walked around and around the duck pond in a village near ours, crying and not caring who saw, she made a promise that we would escape, and she kept it. It took a while, and it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't an escape like you see in films. In the end, he watched as the removal men loaded our stuff into their van. In our new home, I made a fort out of boxes while Mom and the removal men drank tea round a temporary table. A little while later, Mom met Gary, but that part of our lives feels distant now. I didn't trust Jay to begin with, and I don't think Mom did either. She wanted to. She said she did. But when you've seen what she has, you'd be foolish not to be wary. She met Jay in a bar on a night out when she wasn't looking. She was with friends and he introduced himself. Whatever he said was enough to get her number. Over the next few years, she began to trust him in all the ways she'd never trusted Martin or Gary. It wasn't quick and it wasn't always easy. But he's a good bloke. He's a keeper. That's why I believe Mom when she says how lucky we are, because if they were that easy to find, everyone would have one. Chapter 23. The four of us strip wallpaper with different degrees of enthusiasm. Jay and Mom are having the most fun. I lose interest after the ripping turns to scraping, and Nia would rather be anywhere else. "We'll do yours next," Jay says, but Nia doesn't answer. I know why my room is the first project. My stepdad thinks it'll help us bond. He thinks we need this. I shouldn't moan about a man in our life actually giving a shit, but sometimes I wish he wouldn't try so hard. It feels awkward and fake because no one moves into a new house and thinks the first room that needs decorating belongs to a 16-year-old boy. That's what posters are for, except I'm not like Nia. I don't like things the way she does. I don't live things. When she talks about her favorite music, when she plays her own, my stepsister transforms. That's why her room is already a collage of festival lineups and flyers and photos of her and her best friends, Femi and Esther, at 50 different gigs. Every time Mom walked in, she frowned at my blank walls and said something about making it my own. It's her way of saying this is forever, but that makes it worse. I'm happy that she's happy. I don't need new wallpaper to feel that. So where are these holes again? Jay asks. When I show him, he nods and says, I doubt it's anything sinister. It worries me how some people dismiss things because they don't want to have to deal with anything bad. Bad happens a lot, and there are always clues if you know where to look, but some people suffer too long and others can't, and others get away with so much because people like Jay can't or won't see it. That's not me ragging on him, it's a fact. It's why murderers like the Magpie Man and the Tinder Trap killed again and again. I wonder what book he wrote with the Tinder Trap, because I know Magpie Man was his invention. I'll always look for people's secrets and question why a door has more holes than it should. You are super paranoid, Nia says like it's a bad thing. I want to ask her about St. Gregory's Academy because that's what Amy was upset about. I want to ask if it's bad there, but we don't have actual conversations. Mom and Jay never forced us to like each other. I think they knew that wouldn't work because my stepsister has 2 real friends and treats everyone else like a bad smell. She's not a mean girl. She's just selective with who she's nice to. What the fuck? She mumbles. When Nia says, Naya, she points to the wall. I can't see it until Jay steps back and turns to Mom with a weird look on his face. But when I do, I can't take my eyes off it. Under the wallpaper in tiny black letters, it says, help me, help me, help me, over and over again. That's creepy, Nia says, but it's more than that. It means I was right about the locks. Even if it happened before Amy lived here, someone was trapped, pleading for help. Jay touches the words, then breathes out slowly. We'll paint over that. And maybe it's my imagination, but as he leaves, it looks like he glances at the holes in my door, his eyes showing the fear he's been trying to ignore. 24. Did you decorate your old bedroom? Amy raises her eyes and says, What? Your old room. My new room. Did you choose your own wallpaper? She doesn't reply right away, and when she does, she sounds doubtful. I think so. Dad probably did it. We lived there a long time. How long? Amy glances over my shoulder, and when I turn, no one's there. She looks worried, and I wonder if I've gone too far. But I have to know. Did she see the words too? Or worse, did she write them? I was about 10, I think, when we moved in. Why are you asking? I don't answer. Instead, I say, and you had the same wallpaper for 7 years? I guess, she says. Are you redecorating? I nod and try to look behind her eyes, but if she's worried, she hides it well. There are words on the wall, I tell her. It happened so quickly I would have missed it if I'd blinked, but I see it, a flash of fear that leaves the slightest tremor in its wake. Amy doesn't look calm anymore. Her smile wobbles at the edges. Her fingers fidget. Her eyes won't settle on a single spot. Eventually, almost in a whisper, she asks, What did they say? Help me. Was it you? Amy shakes her head. Why would I write that? I don't know. Maybe you were in trouble. I can help. If you still are. She laughs and says, It wasn't me, Tom. I had no idea it was there. When I don't reply, she says, It was probably the former owner mucking about. Maybe he expected us to find it and freak out, but instead the joke's on you. I stare at Amy until she looks away. Whatever this is, it doesn't feel like a joke. I want to believe her, but I can't shake the feeling that she's lying. I can help, I say again, just in case, and she smiles. Thank you, but I don't need your help. I know what fear looks like. I saw it 1,000 times in my mother, and I can see it now. Amy's scared, and she won't look me in the eye because she knows I can see it. Instead, she shakes her head and says, I should go. I think about touching her hand or asking her to stay, but all I do is watch her walk away. If she won't be honest with me, if she won't admit that something bad happened in her house before it was ours, I'll find out another way. 25. Jay wanted to paint over the words the day we found them, but I said no. I pretended it was because I want to choose the color when, the truth is, I can't let him cover up a clue. Those 2 words scribbled over and over again can't be ignored. They can't be dismissed as nothing. The locks might be gone, but this is different. Not even Jay can laugh this off. When Mom walks in, she glances at the walls and shivers. She won't admit it, but it's taken the gloss off her dream home high. Sitting on the edge of my bed, she sighs and says, I keep telling myself it was a silly game. You drew on the wall sometimes when you were little, so this. Maybe it's the same sort of thing. I know what she's about to say, and I wish she wouldn't. I hate how she's remembering all the lives she's left behind, all the false starts. It's okay, I tell her. You're probably right. It was probably just a game. I hope so, she says, staring at the tiny please and not looking away. I could show Mom the lock I bought because she'd believe me now. I could hold it up to the door and add to the evidence, but something stops me. She looks sad enough, and I don't want to make it worse. I was too young to save my mother from the monsters. She had to save both of us. But I can save Amy. I watch Mom for a while, lost in a daydream, then squeeze her hand and say, "It's still nice here." She smiles, and I hope she just believes me. I don't want to take her happiness away, even for a second. "We did okay, didn't we?" she says. "We did great." She nods and kisses me goodnight. Later, as I go downstairs, I see her through the crack in her bedroom door, still staring off into space, while Jay snores at her side. I check the back door 3, 4, 5 times, then once again, I've tightened the kitchen taps and pushed against the window locks. I whisper, clap, doubt myself, then say it again after the 7th check. I'm worse when I'm worried. On good days, I can touch everything once and sleep like a baby. On the worst days, I check everything 20 or 30 times and only make it halfway up the stairs before doing it all again. I know it's silly. I know it's irrational, but it's part of me, and it's not going anywhere. It hasn't always been. It started when we lived with Martin. Before she knew better, Mom called them nervous tics. I would touch the same thing over and over again, or wash my hands until my knuckles cracked, the tiny cuts yawning wider and stinging sharper whenever I moved my fingers. It wasn't until we lived alone that I began checking the windows and doors. I used to be scared for just us, but now I'm scared for someone else too. That's why I can't settle even when I'm back in my room. I look out at Amy's window and will her to pull back her curtains. When she doesn't, I make a promise I'm scared to keep but terrified to break. I'm going to find out if Amy's hiding something, and if she is, I'll put it right.